The next thing I want you to notice about how Jesus served is that he was very perceptive with the people he was serving. Mark tells us Jesus took this guy aside. Jesus took him away from the crowd. Now, I'll just say to you, generally when somebody has called me aside, that hasn't always been a good thing for me. I remember my dad saying, "Hey, Ed, come here with me." Rarely was that a good thing. Sometimes I've been in a group and I've been telling a story and I look across the room and my wife is doing this. That's normally not a good thing either. But in this case, Jesus, he sees this guy and he takes him aside. Now, Jesus regularly healed people publicly. Why has he called this guy aside? Well, I think when you read that the guy, he was deaf and he couldn't speak very well, I bet this is a person that knew what it felt like to be made fun of by people. And I think Jesus doesn't want to point out publicly what's going on with this guy. So he took him aside, away from the crowd, and he refuses to make a point out of this guy's condition. He wants to be with him. He's very perceptive about what could be going on below the surface. Stephen Covey, in one of the best books that I ever read, 7 Habits of Highly Effective People, he tells a story in that book about how one day he was on the subway and this father got on the subway and he had his 2 kids with him and the boys were just incredibly rowdy. And Covey says, I normally wouldn't even notice that kind of thing, but the kids were loud and they were obnoxious and they were bothering people, bumping into people. And finally, eventually, after a number of stops, he went over to the guy and he sat down next to the father and he said, "Hey man, I don't normally do this, but you got to get control of your kids. You got to say something to them." And the dad said, "Yeah, I know. I don't know what to say. We just left the hospital where their mother died." The people of God have been put in proximity with people, and you should never think that you know the whole story even though you've been listening. You should always serve people with a great deal of perceptivity that maybe there's more going on than you see. Try to listen really carefully and serve perceptively.